Hello, dear friends, and welcome back to another episode of Midnight Confessions with me, the Mother Confessor. How was your day? I hope it treated you kindly. Maybe you had a moment of laughter, a quiet victory, or simply the comfort of knowing that tomorrow is a fresh start. But now, as the night unfolds and the world slows to a whisper, it's time for us to gather once more, to unburden our hearts, to listen, and to remember. We do not judge. Tonight, I have a story that will take you on an emotional roller coaster, one of love, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Are you ready for another confession? This one comes from Sarah, a baker from a small town in North Carolina whose life was upended by the very people she trusted most. So pour yourself something warm, sink into your favorite chair, and let's step into Sarah's world. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mother Confessor, for giving me this chance to share my story. My name is Sarah, and if there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I believe in love, the kind that feels like home, the kind that makes ordinary days feel extraordinary. And for the longest time, I thought I had found it. I live in Willow Creek, North Carolina, a town where the past lingers in the scent of pine trees and the creak of the old wooden bridge near Main Street. The kind of place where front porch lights flicker like fireflies at dusk and neighbors still drop off homemade pies just because. My bakery, Sugar and Spice, isn't just a shop, it's a piece of my heart. Every morning before sunrise, I unlock the door, breathing in the mingling aromas of fresh dough and melted butter. The walls, painted in soft pastels, are lined with glass jars filled with old-fashioned candy, and a bell chimes sweetly whenever someone steps inside. It's a place where people come for more than just cupcakes. They come for warmth, for stories, for the kind of comfort only sugar and nostalgia can bring. And then there was Matthew, my husband. Tall, effortlessly charming, with the kind of smile that could disarm even the sternest of souls. He knew exactly what to say, how to make people feel seen. It was that charm that made Matthews & Co. the most trusted real estate agency in town. Everyone in Willow Creek turned to him when they wanted a fresh start, a new home, a new chapter. We met in college. It's funny how certain memories become etched into your soul like ink on parchment. That day, I was heading toward Lauren's classroom, balancing a coffee in one hand and a stack of notes in the other. The hallway smelled of old books and pencil shavings, a familiar scent I had come to love. And then, there he was. Matthew was stepping out of the classroom, his deep green eyes scanning the hallway before landing on me. The world around us dimmed, just for a second. I don't know if it was the way the late afternoon sunlight hit his face, or the quiet confidence in his stride, but my heart did something it had never done before. It stumbled. Lauren had been my best friend since freshman year, practically my sister. She waved me over, but my feet felt rooted to the spot for just a moment longer, as if they already knew that this man, this fleeting moment, was about to rewrite my entire life. And oh, how it did. Back then, I thought it was the beginning of a love story. I had no idea it would also be the start of my greatest heartbreak. Matthew and I fell in love the way a summer storm sweeps in, sudden, electric, and impossible to ignore. He had a presence that drew people in, a quiet confidence that made him seem untouchable, yet he was warm, charming, and disarmingly attentive. I was captivated from the moment I met him. He was ambitious, a man who set goals and knocked them down like dominoes. As a realtor, he had a way of making people believe in dreams they hadn't even realized they wanted. He could walk into the most ordinary house and sell it as if it were a castle, convincing buyers that happiness lived within its walls. That was Matthew, charming, persuasive, and undeniably magnetic. I admired his drive, his unwavering determination to build a life of success and comfort. And for 8 years, I thought we had done just that. We had a beautiful home in Willow Creek, the kind of place that belonged in a lifestyle magazine. It had a white picket fence, a wraparound porch where we drank coffee in the mornings, and a backyard that became the heart of our summers, filled with barbecues and laughter. Our friends often told us we were the couple everyone aspired to be. But the greatest joy of our life was Leah. Our 6-year-old daughter was the very best of us, a little girl with a heart full of wonder, and a giggle so contagious it could brighten even the darkest day. She had Matthew's charm and my love for baking, often standing on a stool beside me in the kitchen, her tiny hands dusted with flour as she helped me roll out cookie dough. To the outside world, we were a picture-perfect family. And for the longest time, I believed we were. But now, looking back, I see things I once overlooked. Matthew always loved me with an intensity that bordered on desperation. He would pull me close in quiet moments, his fingers tracing patterns along my skin, as if memorizing me, as if grounding himself. His kisses always lingered just a little too long, and there was an urgency in his touch, something I once thought was passion. But passion and guilt can feel the same when you don't know what you're looking for. He made me feel adored. Even after 8 years of marriage, we never lost our spark. Whenever Leah was away at school or visiting my mother for the weekend, we made the most of every moment, embracing the time to just be us, partners, lovers, a husband and wife who still craved each other. He had a way of making me feel like I was the center of his universe, like nothing else existed when he was with me. And I believed it. It never crossed my mind that his devotion might have been a cover for his guilt. That every whispered, "I love you," every lingering embrace was not just an expression of love, but an apology for sins I had yet to uncover. And the cruelest part? Even now, knowing the truth, I can't deny that those moments were real to me. That even if his love was tangled with deception, it was the most intense I had ever felt. When I opened Sugar and Spice, it was more than just a business. It was a lifelong dream finally realized. From the moment I turned the key in the door on opening day, I knew I had created something special. The bakery was my sanctuary, a place filled with the rich aroma of cinnamon and vanilla, where the walls held stories as warm as the pastries fresh out of the oven. The soft hum of jazz played in the background, the glass display case gleamed with an array of cupcakes, tarts, and homemade bread. And the little bell above the door chimed with every new customer, welcoming them into my world. And through it all, Lauren was there. She had been my best friend since college, the sister I never had. While I spent hours perfecting recipes, she helped arrange furniture, set up displays, and organize the grand opening. She had always been a constant in my life, the person I trusted with everything. I told her things I never shared with anyone else. We sat in the bakery late at night, sipping coffee as I confided in her about my marriage, about my joys and struggles as a wife and mother, about the nights when Matthew would pull me into his arms and make me feel like the most cherished woman in the world. I told her about the surprises he planned, the way he still made my heart skip a beat, how, even after years together, he made me feel like we were still in the honeymoon phase. She listened intently, always smiling, always supportive. I should have known. Whenever I asked if she was dating anyone, she would laugh softly, her expression wistful. "My dream man is out of my reach," she would say. And I, blissfully unaware, thought she meant some far-off fantasy, a love she was still waiting to find. I never questioned it. I never asked what she meant. Because in my mind, she was my closest friend, my confidant, my sister in every way that mattered. And yet the man she spoke of wasn't a fantasy. He was real, and he was mine. The same husband I adored, the same husband I trusted. The same husband I unknowingly told her everything about. I had spent years painting a perfect picture of our love, never realizing that every story I shared, every intimate detail, was like handing her the blueprint to my marriage. And she had been studying it all along. I first noticed the change after Leah was born. At first, it was subtle, the occasional late night at the office, an out-of-town meeting, a sudden urgency in his work that hadn't been there before. Matthew was always ambitious, and I admired that about him. He had built Matthews & Co. from the ground up, and I knew how much it meant to him. So, when he started staying out later, missing dinners, and taking longer business trips, I told myself it was just a phase. He was expanding the company, making moves for our future. And I believed him, because why wouldn't I? He was my husband, my partner, the father of our daughter. But then, the late nights became too frequent. The weekend trips turned into week-long absences. And suddenly, our home felt emptier. At first, I tried to be understanding. I would wait up for him, my heart leaping every time I heard the door creak open. But more often than not, he would slip into the house in the early hours of the morning, reeking of whiskey and exhaustion, barely acknowledging me before collapsing into bed. I started to complain, to question him. At first, he made the effort, offered weak smiles, half-hearted explanations about work deals, promising it would all settle soon. But soon, even that stopped. Now, he didn't bother with excuses. He would just grab his suitcase, a look of indifference on his face, and leave. I called him, begged him, "Come home, Matthew. Leah misses you. I miss you." Sometimes he would ignore my calls entirely. Other times, I would call Lauren, hoping she could talk to him, hoping she could get him to come home. I had no idea how deep her role in all of this truly was. On the rare occasions he was home, we made do with the time we had. Me, Leah, and the scraps of his attention we could get. And then, I found out I was pregnant again. A flood of emotions washed over me. Excitement, relief, hope. Maybe this would bring us closer. Maybe this was the missing piece that would fix whatever was unraveling between us. I had been praying for a little boy, a baby brother for Leah. And now, that dream was real. I couldn't wait to tell Matthew. He had been away at a work conference for 2 weeks, and he was supposed to return that weekend. I called his phone over and over, but he never picked up. So I called Lauren instead. I wanted her to be the first to know. My best friend, my sister in all but blood. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I left her a message, my voice brimming with excitement. "Lauren, call me back when you can. I have the best news. You're going to be an auntie to a baby boy." But she never caught. Not that day. Not the next. I told myself it was fine. Maybe the conference was keeping them busy. Maybe they'd call me once things settled down. On Saturday, I came home from the bakery, exhausted but eager. And there he was, Matthew, sitting on the couch, Leah curled up on his lap, her tiny fingers running over the pages of her favorite bedtime story. For a moment, the sight of them together made my heart swell. He was home. Finally, he was home. I let out a squeal, practically running toward him, throwing my arms around his neck. And that was when everything shifted. His body went rigid. He didn't hug me back. He didn't even look at me. Instead, he sighed, his tone flat, irritated. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he muttered. "Why are you acting like a child and making a scene?" I froze. The warmth in my chest turned cold. My stomach twisted, nausea creeping up my throat. Leah looked up at me confused. I forced a smile, smoothed her curls, and gently told her to go play in her room. She hesitated, sensing the tension, but then disappeared down the hallway. The moment she was out of sight, I let my emotions spill over. "I am sick and tired of the bullshit coming from you lately, Matthew Rogers. What is it? What have I done to deserve being treated like this? I love you. I respect you. I cook for you. I do your damn laundry. I do everything. And what do I get in return? Cold shoulders? Silent treatment? Abandonment? Insults? What the hell is wrong with you?" My voice cracked, the weight of months, years, of bottled frustration finally breaking free. Matthew just stared at me. His green eyes, once filled with love and mischief, now held something else entirely. Indifference. He didn't say a word, didn't apologize, didn't offer an explanation. Instead, he turned toward the door, reaching for his keys. Not this time. I moved quickly, stepping in front of him, blocking his way. "No, Matthew, you're not walking out on me. Not this time." His jaw clenched, and then... darkness. That was the last thing I remembered. I tried to open my eyes, but the light was blinding, searing through my skull like 1,000 tiny daggers. My vision swam, blurry shapes shifting around me. I heard voices, muffled at first, like they were coming from the bottom of a deep well. Then one voice cut through the haze. "Mommy?" "Leah." I forced my eyes open, blinking against the harsh fluorescent glow. The room slowly came into focus. The sterile white walls, the steady beeping of machines, the unmistakable scent of antiseptic. A hospital. My body felt heavy, sluggish, like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. My hand twitched, reaching instinctively toward my daughter's voice. She climbed onto the bed, wrapping her tiny arms around me, her warm breath against my neck as she whispered, "Mommy, I missed you." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay strong. Then the memories crashed back. Matthew. The argument. The way his eyes darkened just before everything went black. He had pushed me. I had fallen, my head hitting the pavement with a sickening crack. I had been in a coma for 3 days, and in that time, I had lost my baby. The words tore through me like a jagged blade. My chest caved in on itself, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. No, this wasn't real. I pressed a trembling hand against my stomach, willing myself to feel something, anything, but it was empty, silent, a void where life had once been. Tears blurred my vision as grief crashed over me, raw and unrelenting. My babe, my son, gone. A soft knock on the door barely registered, but then I heard footsteps. Matthew. I turned my head slowly, my muscles aching from days of stillness. He stood near the doorway, a bouquet of wilted flowers clutched in his hand. His face was unreadable, his posture stiff. He didn't say a word. He just walked to the bedside table and dropped the flowers there, like an afterthought, as if they meant nothing, as if I meant nothing. And then I saw Lauren. She moved faster than him, her heels clicking against the floor as she rushed to my side. "Oh my God, Sarah," she breathed, wrapping her arms around me. "I was so worried about you." I broke. The moment she held me, the dam inside me shattered, and I sobbed into her shoulder, clinging to the warmth of her embrace. But it wasn't the same. It wasn't his warmth. It wasn't the comfort I had once found in my husband's arms, and that realization only made the pain sharper. 2 days later, I was discharged. Matthew drove us home in silence. Leah sat in the back seat, humming softly to herself, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around her. When we got inside, I went straight to our bedroom. Matthew followed, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed. I turned to him, my body still weak but my voice steady. "Why do you hate me so much?" He said nothing. I took a breath, forcing the next words out. "I was pregnant, Matthew, and because of you I lost our baby." For a moment, something flickered across his face, something that almost looked like regret. But then it was gone. His lips curled into something between a smirk and a sneer. "Well," he muttered, barely audible, "maybe next time you won't challenge me." I felt the air leave my lungs. A lesson. That's what he thought this was. A punishment for daring to stand up to him. I turned away, swallowing the rage that bubbled inside me. That night, we went to bed in silence. And from that moment on, I never spoke to him again. We lived as strangers under the same roof. I poured myself into my bakery, into raising Leah, into anything that kept me from drowning in my own misery. Whenever I reached out to Lauren, hoping for the friendship that once anchored me, she was always too busy. Something about a new business deal Matthew's company was chasing. And then, one evening, my world shattered. Matthew had left his phone at home, a rare occurrence. It buzzed relentlessly, vibrating against the coffee table. I wasn't going to check. I told myself I wouldn't. But then the screen lit up, and I saw the name. Lauren. I felt my pulse in my throat as I reached for the phone, my hands trembling. "Hey, Poppy, I have missed your touch. Can't wait for us to finally be together. Just a little longer, my love." The world around me stilled. My hands felt numb as I unlocked his phone, dread thick in my throat. And there they were, message after message, photos, plans, declarations of love. It wasn't just an affair, it had been going on for years, right under my nose. Lauren, the woman I had trusted more than anyone, had been sleeping with my husband. She was the reason he despised me. She was the reason my marriage had crumbled. And she had the audacity to hold me in that hospital bed, to let me cry into her arms, knowing all along that she was the woman my husband had been running to. The betrayal burned through me like fire, leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. But I wouldn't let it consume me. No, I was going to make them pay. I knew I needed proof, undeniable, irrefutable evidence that would leave them with no way out. This wasn't just about exposing them anymore. It was about ensuring they both got what they deserved. So I hired a private investigator, a seasoned professional, discreet, ruthless, someone who had seen it all. I wanted every detail, every secret, every hidden betrayal laid bare. What he uncovered was worse than I had imagined. Not only were Matthew and Lauren having an affair, but they were actively plotting to erase me from the picture entirely. They were planning to sell our house, the home I had built with love, the place where I raised my daughter, where I buried my dreams of a happy family. The sale was already in motion. Buyers had been lined up, and all they were waiting for was the right moment to finalize everything. And then they would disappear. They were going to elope, pack up and leave, start over in a new city as if I had never existed. I sat in my car for hours that night, staring at the folder of evidence in my lap, my hands shaking with rage. They wanted to erase me? Fine. I would make damn sure they didn't get the chance. The next morning, I walked into my lawyer's office and filed for divorce. I wasn't just walking away, I was taking everything that belonged to me. Half of everything Matthew owned. His company, his assets, his pride. After all, it was my bakery's money that had funded his business in the beginning. While he had played the charming businessman, I had been behind the scenes, pouring my savings, my time, my sacrifices into his dream. And now I was going to make sure he paid for every single betrayal. But just when I thought I had uncovered it all, the investigator came back with something even more damning. Lauren wasn't just cheating with Matthew. She was cheating him too. For months, maybe even years, she had been funneling money out of Matthews & Co., transferring thousands into secret offshore accounts. She wasn't just planning to run away with him. She was planning to leave him with nothing. A slow smile curled at the edges of my lips. Oh, how poetic. Lauren, the woman he had destroyed our marriage for, the woman he had risked it all for, was planning to do to him what he had done to me, and I was going to let her. The night I confronted Matthew, I was calm, too calm. He sat in the living room, nursing a glass of whiskey, his usual mask of arrogance firmly in place. But when I dropped the folder on the coffee table, spilling out damning photos, financial records, and love notes, his entire world shifted beneath him. His face paled, his fingers tightened around the glass. I watched him break in real time. At first, he tried to deny it, but there was no way out. The proof was right there in black and white. But then I delivered the final blow. Lauren's playing you too, Matthew, I said, my voice dripping with satisfaction. She's been siphoning money from your company. The moment you leave with her, she's leaving you. With nothing. For the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes. Panic. Pure, undiluted panic. He shot up from the couch, pacing the room, running a hand through his hair as reality set in. He grabbed his keys, storming out of the house to find Lauren, desperate for an explanation. And she gave him one. When he confronted her with the evidence, she didn't deny it. She didn't even try. Instead, she laughed. "Did you really think you were special?" she scoffed, crossing her arms. "You cheated on your wife, the woman who loved you unconditionally. If you could betray her, what makes you think I'd ever trust you?" Matthew was stunned into silence. She continued, her voice cold, detached. "You were always going to leave me eventually. For someone younger, someone new. That's what men like you do. So I made sure I had my own insurance policy. And now?" She leaned in, smirking. "Now, you can go to hell." He came home that night a broken man. For the first time since our marriage had turned to dust, he didn't go anywhere. He stayed home for 2 whole days, locked in the bedroom, drinking himself into oblivion. And I let him sit in the mess he created, let him feel the weight of his own destruction. I had won, but I wasn't done yet. Lauren's desperation knew no bounds. The moment her carefully laid plans crumbled, she became unhinged. Her rage wasn't just about losing Matthew. It was about losing control. She had spent years orchestrating her perfect ending, and I had torn it apart piece by piece. Unbeknownst to me, she had taken things to a level I never could have imagined. She wanted me dead. Lauren had hired an assassin. Detective Ross, sharp and relentless in his pursuit of justice, had been keeping a close eye on her ever since the investigation into Matthew's business uncovered her fraudulent activities. When he caught wind of her latest scheme to eliminate me, he orchestrated a sting operation. The trap was set. That evening, as planned, I was closing up Sugar and Spice, the warm glow of the streetlights casting long shadows against the pavement. The town was quiet, peaceful, blissfully unaware of the darkness lurking beneath its surface. And then I saw him. A man in dark clothing, moving toward me with quiet precision. I felt it before I understood it, the weight of impending danger, the electric charge in the air. But before he could make a move, red and blue lights flooded the street. Within seconds, officers swarmed in, their voices cutting through the night as they tackled the assassin to the ground. He struggled, but it was useless. And then, like a scene from a nightmare, I saw her, Lauren, standing at a distance, her face twisted in fury, her knuckles white as she gripped her phone. The moment she realized what was happening, she turned to run, but the cops were faster. She was caught, arrested, exposed. The revelation of Lauren's crime sent shockwaves through our small town. The woman everyone thought was my best friend had been plotting my murder. The woman Matthew had risked everything for had been orchestrating her own sinister game from the start. And Matthew? He lost everything. His business, his reputation, the woman he had thrown me away for. I will never forget the day he came to my doorstep, hollow-eyed, broken, pleading. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice thick with regret. "I'm so sorry. I was blind. I was stupid. I should have never..." But I held up my hand, silencing him. There was nothing left to say. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. The divorce was finalized. I got half of everything, the business, the assets, and the house. The house they had planned to sell right from under me. The house that I had turned from walls and wood into a home. Now, it was mine. Matthew still comes to see Leah, picking her up for weekends and holidays. I watch them from the window sometimes, the father she still loves, the man I once adored. And here's the hardest part to admit. I miss him. Not the man he became, not the liar, not the cheat. I miss the Matthew I married, the man who made me laugh until my stomach ached, who held me through sleepless nights, who traced my fingers absent-mindedly when we sat together on the couch. Sometimes I think about calling him, about letting him in. But then I remember the betrayal, the lies, the way he made me feel like I was nothing while he built a secret life with her. And suddenly, the longing turns to pain all over again. I don't know what to do. Should I let go of the past and move on? Or should I listen to the part of me that still aches for the love we once had? I need advice. What would you do? Thank you all so much for staying with us until the end of this episode of Midnight Confessions. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. Now, we want to hear from you. What advice would you give to Sarah? Should she forgive her husband and consider taking him back? Or should she move on with her life? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories. And if you have a confession of your own to share, you can send it anonymously to the email linked below. Thank you for being a part of our Midnight Confessions community. Until next time, take care and stay strong.